Hi, friends. Welcome to the Fishes of Man podcast. I'm your host, Nash, and I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Sunny.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Friends, if this is your first time joining us, you're in for a treat. Every episode on this podcast is a biblically based message from one of our guests, and something fun follows. At the end of the message, there will be a discussion between the guests and us. And our purpose here in Fishers of Men podcast is that we will know God and make Him known, maybe also be known to Him. This is a command from God. We believe knowing God is not just 1 minute event, it is a life journey. Not solely us, but also you, listeners, will learn with us. Like Nash and I would always say, we will all be classmates.
Right. We'll be in the same class, I guess.
A new classmate today coming up.
We're in the least section or... I don't know. We'll see.
I will be in the last row.
Okay, I'll be in the front. Right on. We have an interesting episode today, actually. Now, many of you might be familiar with the story of Jesus Christ, His crucifixion and resurrection. But have you ever stopped to wonder about the individuals who played a pivotal role in these events, yet remain somewhat in the shadows? Today we're... very interesting, right? Today we're exploring two fascinating figures from the New Testament. And I mean, who doesn't love a good secret disciple story, right? Very intriguing. They're like the undercover agents of the biblical world, especially in the gospel. And today we're taking a closer look at I'm just going to call them agents because they're like, some sort of agents. We're going to take a closer look at agent number one and agent number two, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea.
What a story to talk about.
Yeah. So secret agent number one, Nico for short. This guy pops up only in the Gospel of John. He first shows up in John chapter 3 and had the famous born again conversation with Jesus. And Nicodemus came to him at night. He was very sneaky. It seems like he doesn't want to be...
Very much related to John 3:16 now.
Yeah. And thank God for him that we had a John 3:16.
Because of Nico.
Yes.
Agent number one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like he didn't want anyone to see him talking to Jesus. We've all had moments that we're unsure about our beliefs as well. So I would say this is like very relatable. And what's fascinating is, despite being a Pharisee, and maybe, Sonny, you can help me define what a Pharisee is for our listeners.
So Pharisees, in Jesus' time, there were different, we call them sects, S-E-C-T. And so there were those that were being influenced by the Greek culture, because before the Romans were in that land, the Greeks were there. And so they were called the Hellenists. And then there's another group called the Herodians. So they were very much into the Roman power grab deals. So they were very much related with King Herod. But one sect, they have, the Hellenists were very much related with the priests during that time. But the Pharisees said, we don't like what the priests are doing. They're so liberal. We want to be the conservative. So maybe that's the best way I can describe that. If I'm a dad of 3 daughters, and if I want my daughters to marry someone, it has to be a Pharisee.
Okay.
Because they were, very conservative, but they were taught, responsibility. The big difference between all these other sects and the Pharisees is that they believe in the resurrection. Not necessarily the resurrection of Jesus and for what it means, but they believe that there's a resurrection.
I see.
So that makes them quite unique.
Thanks for that historical background. Maybe we can say they are like the religious superstars during that time, or
I would say yes.
Or I think at least that's what they think.
But not only religious, but politically.
Yeah,
they were the conservatives.
They were like influential. And so this Nico, which is influential, he was genuinely curious about Jesus' teachings. And it's like he's caught between his faith and his fear of what others might think. And it's a struggle we all face at some point. And then John chapter 7 begins with a backdrop of tension and controversy surrounding Jesus, because after performing several signs and miracles, his popularity was growing, but so is the hostility from the religious leaders. But this time, Nico takes a more public stance. So the Jewish leaders are discussing how to deal with Jesus, and it's Nico who spoke up in his defense. He reminds his colleagues that the law requires them to give Jesus a fair hearing before condemning him. This is a significant movement for Nicodemus. It just shows a shift from his initial secretive approach, meeting at night, to a more open advocacy for Jesus. Then later on, he would show up one more time, and I think this is where we're really going to dwell on, and this is very interesting. And our guest would give us more details about that.
So, that was secret agent number 1. I don't know why you would call it Nash, but I will follow your train of thought here. But I would just like to preface, as I introduce the second quote-unquote secret agent, by saying that one of the prophecies about Jesus' burial in the Old Testament was that he was going to be buried among the rich. So when I introduced the second person, he was rich, but he wanted to be anonymous with his faith and following Jesus. And I would like to put another picture. I was in Jerusalem, and I went to this place where most probably Jesus was buried there. And beside that was a grape growing area, and then that's where they press the grapes. And so it really fits the picture that we find in scriptures. And when I look at that, there's a little distance from that is where the Golgotha place is, the skull.
Yes.
And for me to kind of picture it today, that is owned by this guy. So I will introduce the second guy, Joseph. He was mentioned in the 4 Gospels, but his story is often overlooked. This secret believer was a member of the Sanhedrin, a supreme council of Jews who controlled civil and religious law. Pretty interesting, considering he was part of the ruling council that condemned Jesus, and that led to Jesus' trial and crucifixion. But there he was.
Yeah.
And our guest today will talk about that. He was rich, influential, and yet, at that end, he was there for the body of the one that was just deceased. And I'm saying he is a courageous person because he dared to, appear before the authorities and say, I want to really take care of the dead body. So this is going to be a great discussion later on. Our guest will give us more details about that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
This guy, Joseph.
Yeah.
We'll call him Joe.
Joe, okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking. That's a coincidence, but we'll introduce him later. I'm looking forward for this episode. And again, you don't hear these secret disciples very often. This opens up great conversations between friends, and we have a special guest today, and this guy is not a secret agent, I tell you that. And we're not really sure though. So my friend Sunny, can you introduce our guest today?
So I would call him Joe ML, and he will be talking about Nico and Joe. That's quite a coincidence, but it's very interesting. So many years ago, I was doing work in the Philippines, and I was working with some what we call as pastors, and I came here to the States, and he came with his wife and boy, and I found out that he was trained by the pastors that I worked with. And one of them was a very close friend of mine who was like his dad. So I would like to introduce to you a spiritual son of the ones who I worked with. Joe ML, I would call him. And it maybe
Joe
we
ML.
will just call him Joe.
Oh, welcome, Joe. Joe
Good
ML.
morning. Good morning. Thank you for this time. Thank you, Nash, Sunny, for inviting me to be a part of this podcast ministry. I want to introduce myself. I'm Joemar Labto.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm Joemar Labto. I was born in Iloilo City. I was married with my wife, Ada. God gave us a little boy, AJ, and
I enjoy AG.
it's a blessing for me to be a part of this podcast this morning.
So, one of the things I would like to maybe put into this conversation is the recent series, The Chosen.
Oh,
The Chosen,
Good
because I did not remember any episode on the Chosen series about Joseph, but it featured how Nicodemus, we now call Nico, came into being so inquisitive. His interest on Jesus really went high, and so he had to appear to him that night. He was, according to how the storytelling goes in that TV series, there were just miracles that were happening around the time that Jesus was doing ministry, and he was to investigate. He was to investigate if that is true or not, being part of the ruling religious class. And so he came to realize that something is happening around him, that he needed to realize that it was maybe then for him it's a question whether this Jesus is from God or he was just a mere human being.
So it's like being a detective or something, just
Secret
like in the movies.
agent.
A secret agent. There you go. Now it makes more sense. But I'm curious, Joemar, I'm just going to call you Joe sometimes. Have you seen the series Chosen?
No.
Oh, you haven't? I would say I only watched season 1, but I would say highly recommended. Of course, what's highly recommended is reading your Bible. But if you have other extra time, you might as well just watch it. But it's like in the movies too. I mean, I'm curious, guys. What are your favorite movies?
Me, I found watching historical movies, the events before, how they do these wars, how the wars begin, and then.
I also like historical movies. I'm just gonna name a few, like Troy.
Helen of Troy.
Troy about the Trojan War. I find it very interesting. There was a story about Ben-Hur. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I hear that movie too.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it happened in Jesus' timeline, and that's how they showed it, and just very fascinating. Kind of helps me to understand the Roman superiority and figure during that time, because with these movies, it kind of gives you more concept of, Romans are like this. This is what they look like. They have centurions. They have a very systematic way of doing military stuff. They're very organized, I would say.
Yeah.
So the movie that stuck to my head is a very old Filipino movie, actually.
Oh, definitely.
Tinimbang ka ngunit kulang, which means you've been weighed, because it's a story of Daniel and one of those that ruled.
Yeah, Bill Caesar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In that movie, and I think this is very much related as we talk about Secret Agent Nico and Secret Agent Joe, is that there were just people who were so ordinary and so part of the outcast group. But if you weighed them with how God would have humanity be, they would be more heavy than the ones that they were religious. So that was like a movie that even to this day is stuck to my head. So how can you describe, these two secret agents? Maybe is what we can ask you, Joe, and we will discuss after that.
Okay. It's so intriguing with these two men. Yeah, they're almost forgotten by some preachers, even seldom to hear in the pulpit to be preached. But they had a great part of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ, these two secret agents. It's almost 700 years ago being prophesied by Isaiah. In the book of Isaiah, chapter number 53, the death of Jesus Christ and the burial of Jesus Christ. John 19, verse number 38, 41. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was the disciples of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, asking Pilate that they might have take the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave him permission. And so he came and took away his body. Nicodemus also, who earlier had come to Jesus by night, and came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds in weight. So they took the body of Jesus and bound in linen cloth with spices. And as in the burial custom of the Jews, now the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, which was no man had yet been laid.
Well, so one of the things that we find about these two men is that they were not out on the open.
Yeah.
They were contrasted with Peter, who was like
always there.
There.
Always wanted to be there.
Always in the, I'm gonna die for you, Jesus, but not these two. Not these two. They were just secret, hidden, just wanting to meet Jesus in the evening time where nobody is looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a good thing you mentioned that there was a fulfillment of prophecy
Yeah.
700 years ago.
Yeah.
Without them.
As I was said before, that Joseph and Nicodemus is a great part of the burial and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. At that time, these two men courageously, or even Luke quote these two men boldly presenting themselves to claim the body of Jesus Christ at the cross of Calvary. Even the disciples is not there. Yeah, there's no one stoned except these two. Joseph of Arimathea is not specific where Arimathea is. Some speculation is 5 miles away from Jerusalem. Some are claiming 11 away. But these two men, they're part of the Sanhedrin. They are the lawyer. They are higher position in
They had connections.
Yeah, they have connections.
Yeah.
I don't know these two if they have conversation to each other. What's that I do? We're only Christian here.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were.
I don't know. That's why they have the time that in the last minute we will claim the body of Jesus Christ. Because crucifixion is a heinous, highest way of judgment for the
Capital
Roman.
punishment.
Yeah, capital punishment for treason, I think, or rebellion, I think. Yeah,
Criminals.
As a criminal. And then if these two is not courageously stand up at that last moment, claiming that body and asking that body to Pontius Pilate, the Roman law, if you're accused by this judgment, your body will stay at that cross till rotten, or somebody, the birds or the vulture will take all
Take
your
little
body till
by little.
bones. Yeah. And what Isaiah said, that poor man will be buried to a rich kind of burial because of these two men. Imagine Nicodemus bring pounds of spices, myrrh, olives, or for the preparation or embalming the body of Jesus Christ, and covered with linen clothes and buried in a new tomb. And that's for Joseph's preparation for himself.
That's kind of a very interesting read, Joe, in that what does Joseph and Nicodemus have to gain by taking care of a dead body? If they were really followers of Jesus, they would have followed him while he was alive, not when he is, allegedly dead, because Jesus did not really die as we understand death to be. But what were they to gain? I was just maybe answering that, and maybe Nash and Joe, you can pitch in for your thoughts. I would say Joseph. That's why earlier when we asked, could they have had a conversation while they were in the Sanhedrin? I think they did. I think they did, because
I think so too.
they showed up when Jesus was on the cross and after that. And I would say the conversations of these two secret agents would be, I would like to see a resurrection from this one who claimed that he is the Messiah. And there are many prophecies in the Old Testament I would like to see fulfilled after he is buried. And so I guess they were just really salivating in the idea that here we need to put Jesus in a good tomb, not in
an ordinary tomb.
An ordinary tomb, because we would like to see what's gonna happen next. I'm just making a guess here, of course, but that's kind of why I think they wanted to gain. They were seeing the miracles. They were hearing the teaching of Jesus, and now they would like to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, when Jesus say that word, this body will be broken, and in 3 days they will rise again. And then Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea put it a nice tomb and put it in a wrap in a good linen and put more spices to preserve the body. They have conversation with each other, what we shall do as a disciple of Jesus Christ. If no one can stood up, we will stood up for these things.
Yeah.
And I think when you guys said about the prophecy, they are for sure know their scriptures.
Yeah, because they are Sanhedrin. They studied a lot of scriptures.
But I would say God was also in his sovereign working, made this to be available so that, this can happen. And then I was just looking at that and how God kind of prepared this to people. My thinking now is, Like maybe many of you there who are listening to us and sometimes us, guilty as charged. We want to be just anonymous whenever we are with people. We want to be secret disciples, secret followers of Jesus. But it does not mean to say that because we are secretly following Jesus that we are not actively following Jesus. And I think this is the big difference that we can find, it seems, from the story of Nicodemus and Joseph. They were not passive followers of Jesus. It takes guts to do what they did.
Yeah, it is between life and death if these two decided to claim the body of Jesus Christ. Why? It is a persecution moment of the Master, the Messiah. Yeah. When they stood up, that's a great courage for these two men.
It also, from what I can understand, they would have come to a bigger level of faith for them to be able to do that. So that they had to now get out of the shell, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think they were following Jesus all through the start of his ministry. They were probably observing from the time that John, the baptizer, was beginning his work in the Jordan River area. And then the miracles that he was doing, things that he did in that week. And then they said, everything that we kind of put in this timeline, check. We want to see next. And so they said, we got to get out of our shell, in our comfort zone, and say, okay, we're going to take care of the body of Jesus.
It's very interesting since you mentioned that they are most likely there. So we're doing speculations here, but they're very good with their secret following of Jesus because they were not mentioned a lot in the gospel. So meaning maybe the observers, they did not see them publicly. I'm curious. So do you think that these two guys like kind of had a conversation? So who's gonna go to Pilate and ask for his body? Again, this is just speculation, but so Joseph of Arimathea, he's rich, obviously. Did he give something to Pilate to bribe him or whatever? Or
I think Pilate was just a very practical man, from what I can understand, and he does not want another sector of what he was ruling to really be troubled because the one that they were following was still hanging on the cross. Jewish law was such that, one that curses is anyone who hang on a tree. So they will they have to take it down.
Yeah, because the custom of the Jews is if you're dead, you're not be reached 24 hours for the burial. Yeah.
It will defile the land.
Because they have the law to obey. They have the rules to obey.
I like what you said about Pilate because, he's a practical guy, and I think maybe he's just too sick of the Jewish tradition. Let's just over it. You want his body?
Okay.
Go. So I don't think he needed a bribe, but then he said good riddance.
It was mentioned in Mark chapter 15, verse number 43 to 46. Make it sure if it's dead, you call the captain. If that Christ is dead, and then you can take it.
Take him.
So we've been doing traveling, right? International travel. Do you guys recall the maximum weight luggage that is allowed when you travel?
Was that
in the Philippines? Is only 7 carrying luggage, and here I think 20 or more.
So it's actually 23 kilos, which is 50 pounds. But the spices for Jesus was like 75. So if you can imagine how heavy it is. It's a lot. Without rolling, wheels and
So thank you for pointing out that one, Nash, because I believe these two were not just now going to be very courageous people. They showed a lot of love.
That's a good point.
If you really love somebody, you are willing to spend for that somebody. Really take a lot of, and this is, I think, a lesson for all of us. Like if we really love someone, and especially if we love God, we have to give something that costs us. And this is what I see in this story, Joe, that you were sharing. They love Jesus. Yes, they were secret before. Now, openly, they are showing their love for the Lord.
Maybe this too is present when Mary Magdalene broke the alabaster ointment. That if that lady can do that for Jesus before the burial of Jesus Christ, and then why not us? This is the time that we must show ourselves.
So we were talking about their courage and their love, maybe we can go to some application to everyone, including us three here in this conversation and all of those who will be listening. I think there is a debate in our hearts, right? Should I be a vocal follower of Jesus, really share the good news, being fishers of men openly, or is it okay if I will be secret and yet active and be working in the appropriate time to share someone to Christ? And I think both are equal. You have a time sometimes to be silent. But a time to be effective in certain times. So there are people who kind of look down on some people who are not very openly sharing the gospel, but like very slowly and very, very covertly serving the Lord, making impact on people's lives. I think that's the bottom line. Even right now, so many thousands of years after Jesus, even right now in our conversation, we're impacted by these two guys who were secret disciples, but their example is blowing our mind for what they did.
Maybe as a Christian, not every time you must to show your I am a Christian, not to be shut up, because in everything there is an exemption. There's another way to show that you're a Christian. You need to be shout that to somebody about this, but there's a positive and negative way. But if you're free to do that, why not show up yourself? Why not to be a blessing to them? Not, I don't want to share my life as a Christian. No, I am saved. I want to keep it. Yeah, there is, in everything there is a season.
No.
If there is a time, why not? But if you cannot stand for that, maybe you must ask courage to God that someday I can expose myself. I got one experience in my life. My fellow young people at the time, their family is too strict for him. They don't allow him to go to church. And then he decided to be baptized because he's eager to be baptized. And then the pastor of the church, my uncle, Pastor Marcos, okay, we'll do baptism under the well. Yeah. The time he stood up for that faith, and then the whole family followed.
Wow. That's a great impact.
Me too, before. The four of my siblings are the first who go to church.
Follow Jesus.
Yeah. And then when I go to church, I hide my Bible at the back.
Oh.
Yeah, and then in school, they call me pastor. Oh, pastor, you're here. I'm so shy for that before. Then after I realized, why I not show myself? And then my grandma, my whole family, my father is full of vices. Yeah. At that time, I am a pastor. Every time I went to Iloilo City, because they live in Iloilo City and I'm pastoring in Negros Occidental that time, I cried because I challenged my member to be faithful. I win souls. And then my family is not a churchgoer. Then I cried. And then before my father died, 6 years he served as a deacon of the church. If you showed up, there's great changes. But in everything there is a season.
Yeah, we are all called to follow Jesus, but some are gifted in open evangelism. And sometimes those of us who are not gifted in that area should say what Apostle Paul was saying, I am not
Ashamed.
of the gospel of Jesus. So even if you're not very openly, actively doing the sharing of the gospel, just like the evangelists do, for as long as you're a Joseph of Arimathea, active follower of Jesus, or Nicodemus, active follower of Jesus, and then when there are opportunities to show forth your faith, your love, then courageously you can do and say so that people will know about Jesus. And I think that's kind of what we see in application to what kind of personality we are, our different giftednesses, as we apply what we find in the story of Joseph and Nicodemus.
Yeah.
You know, like even the silent ones, but really still active ones, they can impact for Jesus. They can be fishers of men.
Oh, I like what you said. It's a very strong point. Like, even those that are the silent ones, they can create waves. And that's possible. That's amazing.
There are things in life that sometimes the person who took more achieve less. But these two They
talk
speak
less.
but they achieve great things.
I see.
And they impacted. Even the disciples, maybe that's the turning point of Peter. I am the spokesperson of Jesus Christ, but I'm hiding during persecution. And I denied him three times. Maybe the fulfillment also of what Jesus saying to Peter. But maybe if these two men stood up, then why not? And then maybe that's the turning point of Peter. And then Peter do great impact after the death of Jesus Christ. And they start preaching boldly to Jerusalem, to Israel. And the first preaching of Peter, 3,000 souls were saved at the time.
Taking baby steps, I think, is another thing that we can put here. Also, I remember this saying, silent waters run deep. And like, this is what I find about these two characters. Very, very silent. But we know that they were deep. And again, we're challenging each one of us here in this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, dig deep into your faith. You will find so many wonderful things when your roots go deep, and you will be undergoing a lot of transformation as any tree or any plant. When they dig deep, they start putting out a lot of good leaves and bearing fruit. And I can see this also in the life of these two individuals. Well, adding for more practical tips, because you might be thinking, well, how can I grow with my faith in secret? That's a great question. First and foremost, it's all about finding your own space as you connect with God. And I think this was happening to these two individuals. They could be through personal prayer, reading scriptures, or even journaling your thoughts and feelings. Also consider surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, those who understand where you're coming from. Remember, you're not alone in this. If you look for God, even in secret, you will find Him. And there are countless others who share this experience. Finding the connection will be incredibly empowering for you and for me.
And I think we want to be addressing as well, like, why are we hiding? Why are we in secret sometimes, right? And so there are several reasons too. For some, it's about, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, or even fear of losing relationships with your family or friends. Others might be in environments where their faith isn't accepted or could lead to backlash. And that's the reality, right? We are blessed that we are here in the US where we can
openly.
But come to think of it, not all countries are like US, that we can freely express our belief. And let's be honest here, sometimes it's just easier to blend in, right, with the crowd. And we live in a world where everyone seems to have their opinions, and it can be intimidating to stand up for what we believe in. But here's where it gets interesting, because being a secret believer doesn't mean that your faith is any less valid. Jesus knows you by name.
I guess we can put it at that. There are just so many things that we can talk about with these two individuals. But Joe, thank you very much for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, well, before we wrap up today's episode, this is why we are doing this podcast, to reach out to those that are unreachable. And I want to encourage all of you, secret believers, agents out there, my friend, it's okay to take your time. Our faith can be a journey, just like Joseph and Nicodemus. And just remember, Jesus loves you, whether you're out in the open or in the secret. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to share this episode with someone. We'd also love to hear your take on Joe and Nico. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcast Index, YouTube, and RSS.com.
Well, that's it for us. Thank you for joining us. Join us next episode. And I know that in your head, you would say, I would have loved to say this, but just get hold of us, communicate to us, and we would like to listen to what you're saying. Secret agents, friends, we're looking forward to you joining us the next episode.
All right, everyone. We invite you guys to hang out with us in the next episode. See you next time right here on Fishers of Men podcast.